I'm about to tell you about my first experience with the afterlife. The clouds in heaven are not like the clouds on earth. Those white flying clouds appear to be dancing. I was staring at them for a long time. Someone once asked me what I was looking at. "Those clouds over there," I replied. I'm not sure what he said about them, but that's when I thought to myself, "I've been here for 10 days." To which a voice replied, "You'll be here for another 10,000 years. I can't remember some details, so I'll skip ahead to the moment where I was in a massive skyscraper. It was huge on the interior and appeared to be composed of pure gold. I observed hundreds of robed people conversing among brilliant beams of light. A lady stood close to two gigantic doors with the words "King of Kings" and "Lord of Lords" engraved on them. The phrases "I am the Alpha and the Omega" are also engraved into the stone. "God will speak to you immediately," replied the lady. When I walked in, I fell to my knees, and God urged me to get up. I was in the location where you were given your new name by God. "I will call you," but I can't remember it. It was a bizarre word that sounded like it came from another tongue. He also informed me what it meant, but I can't remember. The more I looked at his face, the more the light appeared to obscure it. The light was commonplace, like the kind that comes in through a window. This is where the bits of my recollection seemed to start. I soon found myself encircled by a crowd, and I heard a voice say, "Once you depart, there's no returning to your prior life." "I want to go." I skipped toward the location, and then I heard a voice exclaim, "Please don't go." I recall some of what happened next. I have some visual memories of my mother's womb and of my birth, and I recall everything. The nurse, the doctor taking me out, what the doctor said, what the nurse said, what my mother said. Everything I recall is exactly the same as what my mother remembers. It's difficult to believe. I must have strengthened my ability to remember my birth and my first birthday as well. I could feel my heartbeat and the chill in the air. When babies cry, it's because the doctor has to take them out. Your head is subjected to a great deal of pressure, which makes you want to cry. I noticed a few pence in his front pocket and recall my grandma stepping in and out of the room. The doctor repeatedly told her to leave the room, but she kept returning. My mum confirmed everything. I also know where I was transferred from the room where I was born. It all corresponds with what my mother says. I have many more specific memories, but I'll skip ahead to my second death, which appears to be slightly different from what most people report their death experience to be. I climbed into the rear seat of my mother's automobile. I refused to wear a seatbelt, but she persisted. She drove up the road and made a right. I suddenly began to cough. It started out like a cold cough, but quickly became deeper. "Roy, are you all right?" my mother asked as she turned to face me. I kept coughing, then began hiccuping and gasping for air. She continued saying the same thing again and over. "Roy, baby, speak up." I coughed once more. I leaned forward at first, then fell backwards. When you get up too quickly, your eyesight begins to deteriorate. I stopped coughing, but she continued to say the same thing. I assured her that I was okay now. I felt compelled to jump out of the seatbelt, which I did, and the seatbelt passed through me. I moved to the center of the seat. The front passenger then attempted to wake me up. I didn't say anything. I saw a small child with his hair spiked up in dark colors, his mouth gaping, and his head tilted back. "I'll wake him up, Mommy," I said. But neither the traveler nor I were able to wake the boy. She wanted to check my pulse, but she couldn't get in touch with me. She was able to feel my wrist as she unbuckled her seatbelt. "There's no pulse," she murmured. "What do you mean there's no pulse?" said my mother. "Are you attempting it in the correct location?" "I'm sure," the passenger said, her voice panicked. She checked my throat, heart, and respiration, and she couldn't find any. "I believe your son is dead," she said. My mother warned her not to say things like that. I examined my hands. It appeared that you could see a little bit through them, but not much. I ran my finger across the passenger's elbow. "It's terribly cold back there." She snatched her arm away. "That's extremely unusual." Then I heard a voice say, "It's time to leave." I slid through the car floor and into the street to the left, where Sonic was located. I was frightened at first that I might be left there, but then I was blasted skyward at incredible speeds. There were clouds upon clouds. Within 10 seconds, I was looking at the earth in all its grandeur. I came to a halt and just stared at it for a few seconds. Then I was accelerated backwards down a tunnel at even higher speeds. I came to a halt near a massive planet and orbited it for a while. Then I took off at a great speed in another direction. I found myself passing through a vast tunnel that was connected to a smaller tunnel. Someone was being drawn into the smaller tunnel. At the end, there appeared to be a dark pit. I swam over to it. Before I arrived there, I heard a voice tell me not to go there, saying, "You don't ever want to go there." Something then drew me backwards. I briefly touched hands with a man who stated he had died of a heart attack and was on his way to see his wife. There was a light above us, as well as a gigantic person and a large white hand waving at us. I soon found myself on top of a massive cloud. Smaller clouds were also drifting through the sky. When I turned back, I noticed a group of at least 20 people. Some of them were holding hands. "Roy, come here," said a female voice. "Don't be scared. You're now safe." As I proceeded towards her, I noticed a big cloud approximately 3 football fields away to my right. I watched as a lady on that cloud took approximately 10 steps, dropped on her knees, and began to cry. It was far distant, yet I could see everything clearly from there. She was standing in front of a gate, which was guarded by a person. Then I heard the voice telling me to come to her again. As I proceeded closer to her, I noticed a cloud-like mist engulfing my waist, ankles, and lower torso, swirling like the wind. She inquired as to why I remained in my ghostly state. I didn't say anything. People frequently awaken from this trance before entering paradise. "I understand now," she mumbled to herself as she looked over to her left. Then she turned to face me and said, "Roy, you have to return to Earth. There was a mistake. I'm sorry, but you have to come back. I swear you'll return eventually." She might have claimed I was fortunate. So I took a step back, and suddenly I felt myself falling. As I plummeted, I saw someone come to the edge of the cloud and wave at me. So I waved back. I found myself falling towards the ground, and I kept going until I reached our car and crashed right through the top. I was back in my body and awoke immediately. "Roy, say something," my mother exclaimed. "I'm okay," I told her. I looked to my left and saw Sonic and a train passing by. I had saw the railroad lighting turn red just before I departed. Everything was back to normal now, as if nothing had happened.